Yes!
Your first bull. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Lord.
Well, now you're seeing what a dead bull elk looks like. Hey everybody, Brandon Mason here with Eastman's Hunting Journals. And today my son, Hunter, shot a beautiful bull elk in Wyoming. And we're going to take a few minutes. We got to break them down anyway. We got to pack them out of here. We're in grizzly country, so we're being very careful. But what we're going to do is we're going to show you an easy step-by-step method of boning out this animal in the field. And what that does is it allows you to save a ton of weight in your backpack, because these elk are huge animals. And the same process works for deer, for antelope, for any big game animal. It's really slick. We're going to go step by step, and I'm going to start at the base of the skull up here, or more right there, and I'm going to come all the way down his spine to the tail. And then I'm going to cut down the front leg and then down the back leg, and then we're going to peel that hide off. These elk especially, even though it's a cool day, they will hold in this heat around their hump on their neck and everything for more than a day, even in cold weather like this. And so it's really important to start getting them cooled off. And then we're going to show you step by step the process of boning and filleting everything out. Okay, now today what we're going to use for this is the Outdoor Edge Razor Max, and it's a replaceable blade knife. This one, they have most of the replaceable blades are folding blade knives. This is a fixed blade, and you can see it just easy push of the button, and the blade pops right out, pops right back in. It's kind of like a reciprocating saw, and we've done some tips on this, and so has Outdoor Edge, and so you can get a little better idea what the knife is. But this is a 3.5-inch replaceable blade. We've got extra blades that we can use if this dulls up, plus there's a 5-inch fillet blade that I'm going to be using to go down some of the spine and take out some of the back straps on this huge animal. It does not take long to dull up a knife with hide that thick. Look at how thick that hide is. So right now I'm cutting against the grain of the hair, which you normally don't want to do, but I'm just getting a start. And I'm going to rip all the way down that spine. And first, I'm going to grab the fillet blade here. Just like that, ready to rock. And then this pops in there. Put that up there so I don't lose it. There we go. Look how thick that hide is right there. That's why we got to get this animal cooled down sooner rather than later. And thankfully it's a pretty chilly October 1st day. So as you can see, we're ripping right down the spine. That's the dropping shot right there, spine hit. First two were double lung hits. You can see this hide gets a lot thinner on a bull elk towards the back end. Look at that, easier to zip right through it. Oops, and I cut into the ham a little bit. Okay, so now you can see we've got that cut along the spine. It's already starting to cool off. Now I'm going to come down the front shoulder, come down the back quarter, and we're going to get this hide peeled off, let it start cooling, and then I can start filleting all this off. And the cool thing about a bull elk is there's so much meat up on the neck, and we're going to take as much of that off as we can. I normally don't hold the knife and cut like this, but their hide is so tough. Sometimes you gotta do a little bit of prying, unfortunately. Thanks for standing guard, Todd.
Yeah.
Now if you talk to 10 different hunters, you get 10 different answers on how to do this, and really none of them are wrong. It's kind of personal preference. I'm sure Todd does a little bit different than I do, and I know some of our other staff members like Dan Picard does a little bit different than I do, but the end result is the same. You're getting the hide off, then you're getting the bone off the meat off the bone, and getting it processed as soon as you can, and have great table fare. Okay, we've got a lot of the hide taken off the shoulder. I'm going to peel it back a little ways here so I have more room to work. And then I'll show you how to take all that meat off of that front shoulder of the elk. Two really good shots. Right there and right there.
The LDX bullets do the job, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Okay, we're peeling this hide back. I'm going to make a cut right here in front of the hind quarters so we can peel all that back, let that meat cool while I'm working on the front quarters. Be very careful in this area not to puncture the gut sac, because we're not planning to open up the body cavity except for up here later on when we take out the tenderloins. You keep tension on that hide, and you can see how it makes it cutting so easy, and it saves a lot on your knife blade. Even though we have replaceable blades, it's still nice not to go through too many of them. And I'm not putting much pressure on that blade. It's just cutting nice. See that? And that little lima bean thing looking is that I cut in half? That's a lymph node right there. That's all one piece that I cut in half. That's one of the places they can detect chronic wasting disease. Okay, now we're finally ready to bone out the front quarter. On an elk like this, there's a ton of meat, and so we're going to start doing that right now. Now what you'll see is on this shoulder blade, the shoulder blade goes back like this, and there's a ridge right here. And we're going to fillet off of that both directions. It's pretty short right here, but we're going to fillet off of that. And actually, you can do a lot of things with an elk shoulder blade. I made mine last year into cutting boards. It's turned out pretty cool, and lots of stuff you can do with them. Okay, so first we're gonna find that ridge here. Let's see. So what I'm doing now is I'm cutting away the connective shoulder blade muscle to where it connects up with the backstrap, and it's all separate. It's all muscle groups. And you're going to see that little ridge here even better in a second. And this fillet blade is perfect for this. Nice and long and flexible. And look at that shoulder blade right there. This is why you do not want to hit an elk in the shoulder blade, if at all possible, with archery equipment. It is just like a piece of granite. Trim some of the bloodshot meat off of there. We'll clean up what we can here in the field, but then we'll take more care in the kitchen table. In the game bag it goes. Smaller animals, you can almost completely fillet the front shoulder off of the bone in one piece if you want to. Elk, not so much. And these can be made into shoulder roasts. You can grind them up if you want to. You can make them into, some of them into steaks. A big chunk of meat.
That makes a phenomenal roast.
And that is more meat that's on an entire antelope front shoulder. And we're not even close to done with this puppy yet. See that ridge line there? It's all bone.
Is that lymph node?
I think so. That's giant though.
Yeah, that's one.
I'm just cleaning some of this stuff off as we go if I can. It's gonna have to be done anyway. On the fillet off of this side, you're going to see how much shorter that side of the shoulder blade is than the other one. There it is, that's the end of it. So I've got a lot of this cut off. In a couple minutes here I'm going to flick this up and take the meat off the backside, and some of that will all stay in one piece. There's the bone. It's important to know the state regulations or provincial regulations of wherever you're hunting. Every state's a little different as far as what meat you're required to take. And then of course, some states don't require more than just like the quarters, backstraps, and tenderloins like Wyoming, but as a hunter, you want to take as much table fare with you as possible. And so we're going to do our due diligence here and take as much as we can, because it's fun to hunt for a trophy animal like this. But the best part is you can share the meat with your family for the next year or two, depending on how fast you eat it. And this stuff here is basically used for, if you have a good meat grinder, you can grind it up, make it into jerky or sausage.
The other thing I like to do with that is pot roast it.
Does that work pretty good?
Yeah, low and slow.
You can also can it, can't you?
Yes, you can can it.
I need to get some of your canning recipes from you, Todd.
It's really, really simple. And I'd gladly show you how.
It's one thing we've never done. My dad said he grew up eating stuff like that, but we've never done it. I've heard it's good.
We eat a lot of canned meat.
Okay, we're about ready to flip this over. There we go.
Another thing I like to do is if I'm going to take a quarter out whole, like with bone in it, clean it up, and roast the whole front shoulder. If you're gonna
I've heard of that.
If you're going to have a big group,
I heard that's good.
it's very good.
So we're just flaying off the back side of that shoulder blade. There we go. Thank you. Just a little bit more on that yet. And for a little holder, you can cut a little hole in there for your thumb. Almost done with the front quarter. So a little bit more to lay off the bone here. All right, looks like we
That's pretty clean.
looks pretty clean. Okay, so now we're done with that front shoulder. So now we're gonna take neck meat and some of this other brisket type meat and that extra meat that goes around the front shoulder. There's a ton of it on an elk, there's not as much on an antelope. But got the meat a little bit dirty here, but we'll clean that off and cut it off later. But you can make out of a neck, there's neck roasts, you can make steaks. Some people will cut up the neck pieces and make stew meat out of it. There's really an endless variety of things you can do. One of the problems with wild game is that people are intimidated to cook it, and it's just meat. And the biggest problem that people have is they overcook it. They think because it's wild, they need to cook all the diseases or something out of it, when in reality, it's probably a lot more healthy than a lot of the commercially produced animals, simply because it's not going through various processing plants, and it's just good stuff if you care for it. Oh, isn't it crazy? Blows my mind every time.
Blows my mind is people leave it.
I know, because you don't
You're
legally
not required-
have to.
In Wyoming, you're not required by law to take it. But man, alive.
Okay. Let's see. One thing I hate about the neck though is it's kind of a pain to cut off. That's cool. Now that is a hunk of elk meat. That's just from one side of the neck. Look at that.
That's definitely more than an antelope.
More than an antelope hindquarter.
That's. I'll trim off some of this excess, and that's good for one game bag.
Yeah.
It's a lot of meat.
That is a really, really nice piece of meat.
Look at that. Like a deer backstrap right there. All this is intermingled with bone and everything. It looks like there's a lot of meat there, but there's not. So now I'm going to come back here, trim some of this excess off. Man, look at that hole. Get some of this out of our way. It's all shot up so that we can access the rest of what we need. So the backstrap goes, here's the front of the hindquarter. The backstrap goes from there all the way up to where that neck was. And we'll flay that right off. Part of it is going to be a little shredded because of that last tip, but that's okay. It's not going to ruin much. Okay. What I'm doing is when I'm filleting along this spine for the backstrap, I'm not just cutting down because you'll lose some meat. I'm cutting down and slightly towards the spine because then you're sort of cutting into it without dulling your knife up too bad. It's a nice thing about this little bit longer blade for an elk backstrap. This 5-inch blade gets down in there with a little less effort. So we did that along the spine. Now we're gonna go on the top of the ribs. It's kind of right in this area here. Clean some of this junk off of there. Once you clean that stuff off, you can clearly see what you're going after. Here's some meat that you can grind up. And look at that nice line right there. Right along the ribs. And eventually you'll meet up with your cut that you made initially down the spine. See how that's loosening up as I kick my cameraman? Oof, get a little shredded in there. So here's that hip bone. We're going to carefully cut right here so we don't puncture into the body cavity. And just like that, first backstrap. Look at that. Ow! It's humongous. Okay, now we're moving on to the hind quarter. And so we're almost done with this side. After the hind quarter, we're going to get the tenderloin out. And I'm going to show you how to do that. After that's done, you just repeat the same process on the second side, and that's it. And while I'm working on the second side, my partner in crime here on this hunt, Todd Helms, he's going to cut off the head and start taking the cape off of it so we don't have to pack all that extra weight down the mountain either. The hind quarter is kind of fun because you can really see the different muscle groups. So here you gotta be real careful not to puncture body cavity. Okay, so now you can see there's a line there. I just barely make a cut. It'll start separating for me. And this makes a really good roast as well. Rump roast. Okay. Our family makes a lot of the rump into steaks. and some roast. But there's a million things you can do with it. Just really depends on what your own preference is. And again, there's no wrong way. You can make it all into hamburger if you want to. We do a lot of that too, depending on the animal and what we need at the time. There's a joint right there that we're cutting around. Another good chunk of roast or steaks, whichever.
Neat little trick. I don't think I've ever seen you do that, because I've only been with you with deer and antelope, so they haven't been big enough.
I do that with those too.
Oh, you do?
Just probably not as much, maybe, and I wasn't explaining it.
Yeah.
So, you know who showed me that?
Huh.
TJ. Big old chunk of hindquarter blood jelly.
Ooh.
The Germans, and I'm sure others, would take all the blood clots and stuff like this from the animals and they put it in sausage casings and they'd make blood sausage. I've had it at family reunions. It's actually really good. It's just extremely rich and you can't eat. You almost have to take a bite of that and a bite of regular sausage at the same time just so it's not overbearing. And also don't think about what you're eating. Hashtag know where your food comes from? Maybe not. Sometimes I don't think it's worth it. Just eat and be happy.
Be happy now.
I'm just gonna cut this way so it's out of my way. I don't have to cut it off, but then it's just clear. Part of that knee joint.
It's the ACL.
Did a little ACL operation.
Save that, I might need it.
Especially after this.
What'd you replace your knee with? Probably an elk knee.
Elk did it out in the field. Brandon's not a doctor, but he did stay in a wall tent last night, so. So it's a little easier to work. When you're dealing with smaller animals, this process goes a lot faster. But elk are just so darn big, and you can't be flipping them over and around and everything. So you have to go to plan B and C sometimes. Okay. This part I'm trying to be a little careful so I don't puncture the body cavity like I almost did right there. Can't see what I'm doing here. Okay, so we're almost done with that first hind quarter. I was going to trim up some of this meat that I missed, but I was trying to be careful not to puncture anything that would taint the meat. Go down here and cut up these little pieces. And then we'll be on to the tenderloins and then the other side. Okay, now we're gonna do the tenderloins. This is the trickiest part of the boneless method of getting your animal out of the field. It's not hard, but it is one thing that people are concerned about. Most states require that you take the tenderloins out as part of the edible meat, and it's actually some of the best meat on the animal. So where they lie is underneath the short ribs, basically, and here's the hip bone, and we'll find where that last full rib is right here, and it basically lies right in that area here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our fillet blade and we're gonna cut like this against those short ribs, and then I'm gonna use my fingers to pry it loose from the body cavity casing, or the diaphragm, or well, not really a diaphragm, but the connective tissue that's in there holds everything together. And then I'm gonna very carefully reach in there and snip the ends, snip the end, and it should pull right out. So that's the process. It's, like I said, it's fairly simple. It can be a little tricky if you're not careful. And so we're just gonna take our time. I changed blades, so I have a really sharp blade on there now. I'm gonna get some of this stuff out of my way, I think. That's actually good meat that we can eat. We'll save that and put that in the game bag. And so you can see that there's all that connective tissue, and you can get your finger or your hands down in there. So you see that right there? That's the tenderloin. And it separates easily from the body cavity. So I'm not just gonna slice, I'm gonna slice in a little bit. I'm gonna use my knife and slice up towards those short ribs a little bit to prevent losing the meat, losing too much of the meat, and also puncturing the body cavity, which we definitely don't want to do. And just go nice and slow. Find that last rib, which is right there. Go nice and slow. And there, my knife stopped. I hit that first rib. And then I'm going to come back very carefully. And do the same thing. Now you'll see, since I took the hind quarters off already, when I'm making this cut towards the rear, my knife blade comes through. This is actually the back end of it, right there, which is kind of reassuring to know that we're in the right spot. I'm gonna do it one more time so it's as loose as possible, so I'm not fighting with it. Then I'm going to take my hand, if you bring the camera right in there, you can see that I can separate it from that body cavity for the most part. I might have to just snip it a little bit there. You gotta be very careful. We're almost done. So can you see in there? See in there? All right, we are close. I can now actually put my hand around it. And now I'm just going to do that very careful front cut so I don't puncture the body cavity. And now it is pretty much free. It's very close anyway. Look at that, how that just pulls out. And we are out. Right there. Beautiful. Elk tenderloin. Isn't that beautiful? One of the best cuts of meat on the animal. The process is exactly the same on the right side. So we're gonna flip this bull over and finish processing him and pack him out and head back to camp. For more tips just like this, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as we say, mash that subscribe button and we'll send you more helpful tips like this to make your hunt more efficient, more enjoyable on the field.
I love it.
And I washed my hands just last week, so it should be good.
Yeah, you know, you weren't elbow deep in a bull elk all day or anything.
Nah, it's fine.
No big deal.
This is what makes you stronger.
That's right.
Chow. Look at that sizzling.